Hi, welcome to Paul's Guitar Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how I set up my Floyd Rose tremolo. I've done quite a few in the past, and this is the best method for me. Some people may do it a little different or somewhat like this, but it's not really complicated. This is to make your Floyd Rose completely floating. If you're just changing your strings and your Floyd Rose tremolo is already nice and flush, straight like the body, and your strings are in tune and everything, and you just want to change the strings and do nothing else, then it's probably better just to change one string at a time. Like change your low E string first, detune it, take it out, put the new one in, tune it back to pitch. Then do your high E string, tune it to pitch, and do one at a time, back and forth, back and forth. That's the best way to do it if you're just changing the strings. That way you don't knock it out of whack. I'm going to leave these strings on because they're fairly new and I don't feel like putting brand new strings on it. This is just for the purpose of making this video. Another video that I have on my channel, I show you how to block this Floyd Rose so it doesn't go down like that. In other words, you can't pull your tremolo arm backwards. Plus it makes it stay in tune real good if it's blocked. Good. Okay, now I've already detuned it quite a bit. Let's unlock your locking nuts, loosen up your strings real good. Now just pretend these strings aren't on here. Tremolo is completely disassembled. Now I can clean everything real good. I do this every time when I put new strings on the Floyd Rose. So that's the way we're going to do it today. Springs are off and everything. Go ahead and put it back in. As you can tell, it's completely loose. No springs, nothing. And I would put it to where it needs to be nice and level. Flat with the body. Now, depending on how high your action is or how low your action is over here on your strings and your neck, that depends on how high this is going to be. Now this guitar was already set up, so that's why it's sticking up over the body a little bit. Sometimes they're further down in there, sometimes they're a little higher up, depending on what kind of action you need. But everything's done, like I said, on this guitar already, so all I'm doing is showing you an example how to set your Floyd Rose so it'll float. Now you can take a AA battery if you'd like and put it in behind there and rest it on the back and push it down and make sure that it's sitting good. And as you can see, it's still sticking up a little bit in the back. It's a little bit high. You want this completely straight, like the body of the guitar. You want that straight. So it's a little bit thick. So what I did was I used a stick from a foam brush, cut it off, and I wrapped it in some electrical tape so I can get exactly the thickness that I need to have my tremolo float completely straight. And as you can see, it's just a little high right there, but that's okay. Now what you want to do is once you get your battery in there or whatever you got, and you got your tremolo nice and flush, lift the guitar up. And I got this door stopper that you shove under your door to stop your door from going closing or opening. And I cut it down, and I'm going to put it in the back of this block like that. Just a little bit. Don't force it in there, just enough to hold it. And you check. You see how that's a little bit high? That's because the block was shoved in there too far. So what you want to do is just barely put it in to where it just holds. Now my tremolo is completely flat. Now what you want to do is put a piece of tape across there so it doesn't fall out, because it's so loose and just laying in there, not shoved in there, that it might fall out in the rest of the process. So what you do is just take a piece of tape and put it over it like that. Now you want to make it clear though, to where you can get to your block here and your springs. So that should be good enough. Let me adjust my camera a little bit. Okay, see that? That's barely holding it in there. Now go ahead and check it, make sure it's nice and flat. Looks good. Looking really good. Now the next step is to go ahead and make sure you got it pushed into your studs there too. Your post, your bridge post. Make sure it's pushed all the way up in there. Now go ahead and take your fine adjusters and back them out all the way to where there's no more tension on it. You'll see your arms moving. Back them up all the way out to where it's not has any more adjustments. At this point you want to move them in just about 2 full turns. Because usually you're screwing them in most of the time anyways to fine tune your guitar. What I like to do is I'll tune up the low E or get tension on it really. Or in your case, if you're putting new strings in, go ahead and put your new low E string in. I just get a little snug, you know, so it'll hold everything. And then I do my high E. I'm going to go ahead and use my battery operated. Now I'm going to do them all real quick, so let me fast forward it. Okay, one more tip is when you're taking your strings off and putting new strings on, do not remove this rail. A lot of people remove it or just one screw and move it out of the way a little bit and then put their new strings through, and then later they put it back in. Well, if you change your strings a lot, eventually that little bitty screw, the hole, gets wore out and strips out inside the wood, and then you won't be able to tighten it back down. So I keep these tightened down the way they are always. I never take them back off. I'll clean underneath and everything when the strings are gone, but I never take them back off. I'd rather go underneath that than strip out my hole eventually when I change his strings, you know. And if some people, they change strings like once a week, and after a couple months of taking that screw out constantly, it won't hold anymore, and you'd have to put a bigger screw in it, you know, and just more trouble. I like to keep this tightened down and just feed my string underneath it, or my strings underneath it. That's just another tip. You don't have to do it that way, but I like to do it that way. Okay? Alright, let's get back over here. Now once you got your stuff all leveled off and everything and got your block underneath it like this, you want to go ahead and put your springs back on. For safety reasons, I'm putting my hand on the tremolo on the back side just to make sure it doesn't pop out. But at this point now, you're going to have to, oh, by the way, these are loosened up. Make sure you loosen these up before you take out your springs. I didn't show you disassembling it, which you should be able to do, but to take your springs off and everything and take your tremolo out, you want to loosen these up first. That's the very first thing you do before you take the strings off and do anything. Loosen these up. Don't forget that. Now hold your thumb up against there so it doesn't pop out. Get on your claw. They make a tool for this, guys. I'll put everything down in the link what I'm using today. We won't be using a whole lot, but I'll put a link down at the bottom so you can check them out. Then I go ahead and put my second spring on. I'm going to fast forward it so you don't have to watch this either. And since you loosened them, they should be pretty easy going on, because there's not much tension on them right now when you backed off on them 2 screws. Now if your guitar was comfortable the way you were using it before, if it was already set up and your springs were straight like that, like some of them are, that's fine. Put them back the way they were before. It don't have to be this way. If you only had 2 springs beforehand, then use 2 springs. Now be careful when you're changing to a different gauge string, because if you go to a thicker gauge string, you may have to use a 3rd spring. Okay, as you can see, it has pulled my tremolo down a little bit, but that's fine because there's really no tension on that spring right now, and my strings are loose as hell. We got both blocks in there, that loose block in the bottom and this one right here still. I'm going to use my handy little drill. Don't tune them up to pitch yet. Just get them kind of snug. Start with your low E and then your high E. And go ahead and do the rest of them, but don't do it up to pitch yet. Okay, now we got that set. Now as you can see, it's got pretty level almost. Now we're going to go ahead, now that we got them kind of tight, we're going to make sure that our tremolo's sitting in there properly. Now we're going to get our tuner and we're going to tune it. Tune the guitar up to pitch. Got it tuned up. Good to go. Blocks are still in here now. Now with me torquing it up, you see how straight that is now? Beautiful. There's very little tension on this spring now. Now you want to put your tremolo arm back on here, if it isn't already. And you want to, oh yeah, while it's still blocked like this, go ahead and stretch your strings. But I'd already stretched because I've already used it. These strings are used, more or less, and I didn't replace it with new ones. Now, a good thing is to buy one of these. It's a string stretcher, and what you do is you just put it under there like that, and you each string, and you lift it up a little bit like that while it's in the string. Say like that, and you ride up and down the neck, all the way up and all the way back on each string about 3 times, and that really does good stretching on the strings instead of using your hands, because I have cut my hands in the past on them lower strings. Okay, she's pretty close to in tune. Now what you want to do is go ahead and press your tremolo arm a little bit, just enough to get your block out. Let me get my screwdriver, because my big fat ass hands can't get in there. Pull that out. Okay, once you got that block out, go ahead and lift your guitar up. And what you're going to do now is take that tape back off and hold that block in there, because remember, it's just barely in there. Now go ahead and tighten up your springs a little bit at a time. I know how far to go because I loosened them up, but you want to go back and forth, back and forth. You want this to stay fairly straight right here when you're done. It's still pretty tight, so I'm just going to keep on tightening it up until it falls out. Look, it's so loose, it just practically, if I would have laid it down, it would have fell out. Look at there, perfectly flat. Your tremolo is now floating. Now check your tuning. It's still pretty much on the money. Now all I got to do is fine tune it, but I'm not going to do that until I lock it down. So go up here, go ahead and hand tight. Sorry about that cable. This is a cable for my battery on my GoPro. Go ahead and hand tighten these first, because a lot of times, especially with new strings and stuff, it'll knock your tune out when you go to tighten it down. Now make sure when you tighten this down, you don't go crazy. Just snug it down a little bit. You'll feel it. It'll give a little bit when you get tension on it with your Allen wrench, and then just go just a tad further. You don't have to take a damn torque wrench to it and torque it down. You'll ruin them. Okay? I don't know if you can see my tuner, but we're pretty much right on the money. Now we'll take the fine tuner and we'll tune her up. And we're almost done. E's perfect. Okay, she's in tune. No more blocks in there. Springs are tight as they need to be. With new strings, they're still going to stretch. No matter how many times you stretch them beforehand, they'll still stretch with time. And that's just something you got to deal with on every guitar. And you may have to fine tune it if you're lucky. You stretch them good enough and you can fine tune them and get it back into tune, or you have to unlock it at the top. Do the big ones. Just make sure when you unlock the top one and have to turn your tuning keys up there to back off on these again a little bit. That way you got more room, because you don't have a whole lot of adjustment on these fine tuners. And now she's in tune. And she's fully floating both ways. And floating tremolo. And perfectly in tune still. Just a little bit off because it is stretchy. Perfect. That's your floating tremolo. Quickest way. Now, please subscribe to my channel. Make sure you hit that notification button, because I give away custom guitars from time to time. And I'll have a video at that time when the guitar's ready. And I'll tell you all about the guitar, what's in it, what pickups, paint job. The video will be step by step how everything's done. Make sure you hit that notification button so you don't miss out on them giveaways, these guitar giveaways. And don't forget to check out my channel. I got a lot more setups and different things and custom paint work and stuff that you can check out. Step-by-step instructions on how to do it, where to get supplies and stuff like that. Alright, that's about all for today, and I hope this works for you. Okay guys, y'all have a good day. Be safe and keep on rocking. See y'all.